Hello everyone, this is Tanya from Professor Tanya Speaks, and today I am going to show you how to test your speech. You may remember that in this video where I spoke about the speech making process, I told you that at step 10 you needed to test your speech so that you could see if it qualified as a speech that was cohesive, that had unity, and that had flow. So then in this video, I spoke a little bit more about it, and I told you about some speeches that some students had done, and I told you what they did. Now I am going to show you how to test the coherence of your speech by looking at one of my speeches. Now you'll remember this speech that I did where I spoke about the sustainability of friendships. So you've listened to the speech already and you saw the numerous annotations, and hopefully you also summarized it if you're in my speech class or in my 11:15 class. Now what I have done is taken away everything from the speech, and I've left only the attention grabber, the thesis statement, and the conclusion. And that's what you need to do when you test your speech. But now you'll have an example to follow because you're going to hear what that sounds like. You're only going to hear those three parts, and you'll know when you're moving to the next part because the transition will make it obvious. The video transition will make it obvious to you. That is what you need to do with your speech. After you've done your first outline, you don't want to be trying to perfect it unless you are sure that the structure makes sense. And you will remember that I said you need to be hard on yourself. This is the time for you to be tough on yourself if you want a decent grade. Now, if you don't care about the grade, whatever. But if you care about the grade, and if you care about being able to give a speech that makes sense, that your audience will actually follow and listen to and learn from you, if that's important, then you need to test your speech. So I am going to put mine to the test, and you're going to listen to it. And just from listening to the three parts, you should be able to come up with what I call the tweet. Now, the tweet is a one-sentence summary that anyone could come up with. Anyone who listens to your speech should be able to come up with that summary. And they should be able to come up with that summary from either listening to the entire speech or listening to only the attention grabber, the thesis, and the conclusion. So after you listen to the three parts, I want you to pause the video and figure out what you think the tweet would be, and then restart the video and listen to what I say I believe the tweet should be. So it's a simple exercise today. All you're doing is listening to those three parts to test it for coherence, cohesion, unity, and flow. When you're done, I want you to look at your speech, your first outline, your first draft, and then I want you to put it to the same test and ask someone to listen to it. Just say to the person, if you were to hear just this, what do you think my tweet should be? And just read it to them, because that's what I ask my students to do. When they're testing it, I don't want to see the outline. I don't want to be reading anything. I just want to listen. And I usually just sit back, fold my arms, and listen. And as I listen, I'm listening to hear where you're going. I'm listening to hear if it makes sense. And that's what you need to be able to do for your speeches also. Listen objectively and be critical. It's better if you are critical of yourself. If you have a friend or a family member, just say to the person, if you heard this, what would you think? And only read those 3 parts to them. Now, the speech you'll be listening to about the sustainability of friendships is not an A speech. Let me just put that out there. It's a well-structured, well-developed B speech. And it almost would have been a C speech had it not been the structure of problem, effect, solution. That's considered a persuasive speech structure, and that makes it a B speech because it tends to be more complex than a straightforward, informative speech. But it is not an A speech. So I want you to see that even though a speech can be well structured, well developed, well executed, even when it has all of that, that does not make it an A speech. Because it is only an A speech when it contributes to people's body of knowledge and it can change people's beliefs, and it is a challenging topic. So this is a little bit more challenging than straight benefits of friendship, because this is sustainability. And if I had added research to it, that would have made it like a high B, near to A minus speech. But in itself, it is not an A speech. So I want you to realize the work that has to go into making a speech an A speech. Okay? So what you're now going to listen to is an example of the test of my speech, a test of this speech. As I stood in my kitchen on the phone, waiting to see how this would all play out, I found myself back in time, remembering the first time I met Kathy. I remember it had been one of those evenings when I had forgotten to walk Sassy, our Basset hound, and I was quickly trying to get the walk out of the way when I saw this heavy laden moving truck chugging up the hill, huffing and puffing. And I remember watching it go, wondering who was moving into the neighborhood, because it had been a while since I had seen a moving truck. But when I came back from the walk, I was absolutely delighted when I realized that the moving truck was parked in front of our home, which means that the house in front of us, which had been empty for the last 6 months or so, was finally going to have neighbors. And I wondered who the neighbors were. But pretty soon, I met Kathy. Kathy was my age, my height, and it turned out that she was in my grade. And in no time, we became fast friends. We did everything together. And sometimes her mother took us to school, sometimes my mother took us to school. We were best of friends. And at the end of high school, we went to university together. And I thought we were going to be friends forever, because you never saw one without the other. People called us Batty and Bench. They did. But the night before I left for Toronto for grad school, some friends threw a party, and she and I were at that party. And she got drunk, which in itself isn't a problem or shouldn't have been a problem. But I don't know how we ended up there. But one thing led to another, and before I knew it, she was bad-mouthing me, telling people that I thought I was a princess, I thought I was all that. And before I knew it, I was going after her too. So we were doing that, oh, you're this, you're that, you're that. And before I knew it, at the end of the night, I said, you know what? I never want to see you again. And I hope to never have to run into you again. I left the party. I took a cab home, left for Toronto the next day, and I never looked back. But here I was on the phone, 10 years later, waiting for her to pick up the phone. You see, my mother called me just a few minutes before to let me know that Kathy's mom had been at a four-way stop when a truck barreled into the side of her car and killed her on the spot. That had left me so shaken, really, that my first thought was, oh my God, I have to call Kathy. And then I remembered, I don't talk to Kathy anymore. But when my mother told me, she said to me, Tan, I know you guys haven't spoken and I don't really know what happened, but I think it's time. And when she said it, I said, oh, yeah, I guess it is. But when I hung up, it took me a little while to decide on if I really wanted to call, because I didn't know what the reception would be like, and I was not about to put myself in the line of fire again. And as someone who's done quite a bit of research about the sustainability of friendships, I'd like to talk to you today about the sustainability of friendships. I'm going to tell you the problem, I'm going to tell you the effects, and I'm going to tell you what I consider to be the solutions. So, in conclusion, I believe that we need to really work to maintain our relationships, and we have to work at sustaining our friendships. Now, for those of you who are saying, hold on, Tanya, we want to know how it ended. What happened when you called? Well, let me tell you what happened when I called. When I called, she picked up the phone, and her first words to me were, Tanya, thank you for calling. And oh my God, the tears. I was a hot mess. Tears. Because you know what? I didn't want to admit it before, but I had missed her. I had missed having her in my life. I had missed having her friendship. And in a moment, when she said, thank you for calling, I immediately said, please forgive me for being such an awful friend. And I want to encourage you, if you have a friend that you have canceled, deleted, written off over maybe a minor enough issue, think about reaching out to the person. I'm not saying it's going to work out. I'm not saying they will necessarily say, oh, come, let's do the kumbaya thing. It may or it may not work. But one of the things I learned is that when you forgive, you open the doors of your heart and you allow love and light to come in. So I'm going to encourage you. Reach out to that person. Reach out and renew. So let's forgive. And let us try to maintain those relationships. Let's not just throw them away. We're more than that. We're so much more than that. Okay, so I don't know what you thought the tweet would be, but now's the time for you to pause just for 1 minute and figure out what you think the tweet should be. But here's what I think the tweet should say. It should say something like this. If we want to sustain friendships, we have to learn to forgive. That's really it. That's really it. If you want to give a few more details, then you could say, now that we understand what causes friendships to go astray, and we understand how it can impact our lives, we have to figure out how to solve those issues. And the main way to solve those issues is through forgiveness. That really is it. And if somebody gets anything related to that, then they have understood your speech. But if my intention was for you to understand that, and somebody said, I think the tweet should say, don't have friends, it would mean that I missed you totally. And that's what you want to do. See if people get your speech just from the bare bones. The attention grabber, the thesis, and the conclusion. If they don't get it, it means you need to redo something. You need to make some change. So I hope that helps, and I hope that you will take this very seriously, because you cannot go wrong if you use this approach. You cannot. You cannot go wrong. So thank you for watching, and I hope this helps, and I hope you'll find this to be a useful activity. So until I see you in the next video, bye for now.